Hi everyone, it's Dakota. Welcome to Monday's video finally, yay. Hope everyone had a great week. I certainly did. It was busy and that's always a good thing for my store. Pardon my little look here. I have actually been really busy today. We have our Samhain ritual for my class, my group and our class. We actually have it here at my house. The shop, gosh. Well, we like to have Samhain outside. The actual ritual part we like to have outside. And as you know, I'm sort of secluded back here. We're surrounded by woods, don't have any neighbors. So it's really nice to do ritual here. We don't have those neighbors peering over the fence at us and no distractions, that type of thing. So that makes it really nice. At the shop, our rituals, we do have a courtyard, but most of the time we do our rituals inside our classroom for privacy reasons. I have a fence around our backyard, but nevertheless, there's neighbors and people are nosy, so we just have our rituals inside. So for Samhain, it's a special time, and so we have it here at the house. And the other reason is because we actually have a full-size kitchen here, where at the shop we just have a little mini kitchen. We're just crammed in there. It's way too small and no place to sit, really. So we redo the dining room here and set up the table for our silent supper, so it makes it really nice. My topic of discussion today is pagans and their non-pagan partners. How does that work? And there's a reason behind why I wanted to talk about this, and I'm not going to talk about it until the end of the video. It's funny, but the actual subject is not really that funny for some. For me, I'm going to say this. My husband is not pagan. He is not religious either, but this is not his thing by any stretch. But he's extremely supportive of what I do. He doesn't really care what I do as long as I'm not doing anything to harm anyone or whatever, and he knows better than that, so he doesn't really care. It doesn't really affect him whatsoever. He does request, though, that I don't preach to him, which I don't, because why would I? There are times, though, when like if you ever have that aha moment or some spiritual thing happened, or you I don't know, you did journey work or you did a meditation or you did some magic and there was just something really that was aha that you want to share. And so he gets forced sometimes to listen to that. But you can kind of see when he's spacing out, and I know that's time to quit talking about it because it's just not his thing. He doesn't get it. It's like him talking about his tractors or his farm equipment to me. I could really care less about it. It's his thing. It's his job. It's what he likes to do. It's his interest. And I support that as much as I can. But when you start telling me about, oh, the axle this and the chassis that, and I really don't care. I really don't care. So that's how he kind of is with my witchy stuff. So it's sort of a good thing. He'll take a little bit of mine and I'll take a little bit of his, and that's about it. Other than that, he really doesn't care, and that's really kind of a good thing. Years ago, we have a two-story house. You can kind of see the stairs right there. And that used to be an open loft area. This is right here along there is like the narrow part of the loft. And then this right here, I want to say it's 20 feet or something like that wide, and then I don't know how long it is. It's long. And it was just a big open area. It was just a big loft, wasted space, open area. And that is where I just put all my magic stuff up there, my altars and It's just where I could go to kind of have some privacy. Well, 3 years ago, when I got my sweet little cat, Smeagol, one night I'm asleep and I hear this thump. Wasn't a crash. I just sort of heard a thump in the night and I really didn't think anything about it. So I just went back to sleep. It was no big deal. Well, the next day when I went upstairs to do my devotions, I get to the altar and I'm refreshing and getting ready, and I look over and I went, that's weird, what's missing? And I went, my chalice is missing. What? And I looked on the floor, and there on the floor was my broken chalice. It was a handmade pottery chalice. I had had that for probably about 13 years. And I was, I didn't even know what to do. It was crazy. I just didn't even know what to do. And I picked it up immediately, and I thought, oh my God, I'll glue it back together. But as soon as I touched it, it was dead. I mean, it truly was dead. It felt like just picking up a piece of concrete or something. There was no life to it, and it broke my heart. All those years of rituals, of devotions, of magic, of everything that I had used the chalice for just had just dissipated, and I was devastated. I was so devastated. And so I remember coming down and telling my husband, well, dear, guess what, Mr. Contractor, person that likes to do contracting, you're going to build the wall. And I said, I need a private room. I need a room where I am not disturbed, where a cat cannot get into my herbs, break things. Cats do that, you know. So the good thing is my dog, he will not go up the stairs. He's afraid of the stairs, so that's a good thing. Cat, on the other hand, yeah. So he actually built me a wall and put a door. So it's actually like it's a nice big giant room now. It's really nice. And so I can go up there and close the door and do whatever I need to do in private. It's really great. The odd thing is that I found, being pagan and having a non-pagan in the house, is that if he's home, even if he's outside, because, if he's home, I can close the door. When he's outside and I need to do something, I go up there and I close the door. It's just not the same. There is something about the knowing that somebody else's energy is here. Now, he can walk into that room anytime he pleases. That room is not off limits to him. He could care less what's in that room, and there's no reason for him to go in the room. But should he go in that room to, I don't know what he would go in there for, to check a leak in the ceiling or something, it just wouldn't matter. Honestly, it wouldn't matter, because even though he's not pagan, there is definitely perfect love and perfect trust going on in our relationship. I would hate to have some magic that I'm working and have him decide that he has to move that out of his way for whatever reason, and he didn't ask me. And he wouldn't even probably think about asking me, because he just doesn't get it that much. You know what I mean? Like, he just doesn't get it that much. So, but it's a good thing. He's just very, very supportive, and there's no issues with it whatsoever. He helps me out at the shop when I need help. if we get busy and my worker and I are just too busy, he will come. He writes up sales. He likes talking to the people. He doesn't, well, he only knows a little bit about, I guess, witchcraft or whatever. Enough to carry on a conversation, and he tries to change the subject, basically, is what he tries to do. And so there's that. He knew, though, from the get-go when we first got together, and we've been married about 20, I think we just had our sorry, dear. I think we had our 28-year anniversary this year. And he knew when we got together, though, because from Southern California is where we met, in Southern California, and that's where I'm from. And my house was gypsy witchish. There were tarot cards and oracle cards and crystals everywhere, incense burning all the time. It just was a witchy vibe feel to the house, and so was I. So he knew from the very beginning that I was different. I wasn't dedicated or initiated at that point, and I wouldn't say that I practiced on a daily basis at that point, but I definitely was drawn to the path, and I was working the path not on a daily basis. I'll just put it to you that way. So he sort of knew going into it. So when I went through my formal training and my initiation and all of that, he was very supportive. He just, if that's what you want to do and that's what makes you happy, then go for it. Don't preach to me, which I wouldn't, and I didn't. And so it was fine. It was fine. So I feel very lucky, and I feel very blessed in that respect. I have customers all the time that come in who one party is pagan and one party is not. And that party being religious, from a religious background, and still practicing their religious practice, whether it's Christianity, Catholicism, whatever it is. And they are not all about this pagan, witchy path at all. And so then I have that person, that customer who comes in and says, I'm in the closet, and I am gifted. I know that this is my walk, and I don't know what to do. I've talked to my person, and they're not all about it. They don't want any of my stuff out. They don't want to see it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want the children to see it. I cannot talk to the children about it, that type of thing. So anything that they do has to be done in private. Their things have to be hidden. I just find that really sad. I think that in a relationship, but let me before I go there, let me take that back. I think that it is very sad. But what I think is, if you knew in the beginning, even if you knew that you were somewhat drawn to that, and maybe even you weren't practicing any of that, to at least have that conversation with the person before you got too involved with the person. Because once you commit and get involved with that person, and then you go, I'm out, I'm a witch, I want to practice witchcraft, I'm a pagan, I want to read tarot, I want to collect stones, I want to do whatever it is that I do, this person freaks out because they don't want any part of that. But you have to own part of that responsibility, because if you knew at all, if you even had the slightest inclination that, don't you think tarot's kind of cool? Or I'm kind of psychic. I kind of have these feelings. How do you feel about that? Have those discussions beforehand. Well, then, I mean, you can't blame them for being shocked or scared, because that is what they think, and that is their truth, and you have to respect their truth, because that's their belief. So it's not. And in the same respect, they should say, I love you. How did this all come about? What is this all about? I'm worried for you because I believe this. I'm worried about you. Can you explain this to me? So there should be a compromise, but usually there never is. And that goes for both sides. Usually there never is, and that's on both sides. But what happens when you get into the relationship where you didn't know beforehand, and maybe you came from the church? That's where you met. You both go to church every Sunday, and the children go to church too. But then something hits you, because I get this all the time at the shop. I get this. I'm just sitting in church and I'm listening to what the preacher has to say, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, this isn't right. No, I'm not feeling this. This doesn't feel right. There's something else or something more. And then you start exploring more. That's going to be a shock to that person. And they're going to think of all the bad, evil things that people think of witchcraft or the pagan path, occultism, whatever you want to call it. They're going to think the worst of it, because that is what they're taught. And I think if you think back to your religious studies, maybe, possibly, you kind of thought that as well when you were brought up in the church. That is what you're taught to believe. So then it becomes a bigger issue. And I do believe there has to be conversation about it. There has to be some compromise. And I have someone right now that, and I'm not going into, well, I will say this. I have someone right now that has talked to me about the same kind of situation that they're going through. And it's more than just the spiritual thing. It's financial, and there's some other stuff going on, but the spiritual thing is a big thing. And so they're actually going through a divorce, and there's children involved. So that is a huge issue for them, because this party who still goes to and believes in the church does not want this party to have custody of the children, and they are willing to try to find proofs of evilness with this person, so that this person does not get those children, because they do not want the children raised around this. It's a terrible situation. My heart bleeds for them. It's very, very sad. And this person actually doesn't want to raise the children either or. They just want to raise the children and let the children have their own mind set. Let them figure it out when they get old enough. If the children still want to go to church, they are all about letting them go to church. And if the children don't want to go to church, they're all about letting the child not go to church. And if the children wants to learn about paganism, they're going to answer the questions that the children have. This person is not okay with that. It's a bad battle. It's not pretty. So being pagan and having the pagan partner, it can be difficult. And my only advice that I have to say, because I'm not in the situation, and because I did not come from a religious family, nor did my husband, although he is not pagan and this is not his path. I think he can speak for himself, but he believes in energy, and He's not, this is not his path. He doesn't bash. He doesn't knock it. And he probably believes in aliens more than anything. And he's got some good, valid alien things. And we watch Ancient Aliens all the time. And I love it. And I have to agree at times. I do. There's some stuff out there. Makes you go, makes you think about it. But so my only advice is that if you even have the slightest inclination, start talking about it. And even if it means getting some type of counseling for it. And there again, counselors, what kind of counselor? I mean, you're not going to go to a counselor who goes to your same church, because they're going to have the same feeling, and the person is probably not going to go speak to one of your ordained, counselors or spiritual advisors or whatever. It's pretty tough. So if you know anything in the beginning, it's best to at least throw it out there and see where you're at, where the other person is at, and if you can't come to some kind of a compromise. So what I wanted to leave to the end of this video is, this is funny. So at Samhain, and at all our rituals, my husband does try to help me a lot. Like he helps me with the salt circle, especially. I do like to lay salt, so he sets, he helps me with the salt circle and a few things that he helps me with. But he's always very, very helpful with our stuff. And so at Samhain, since we do it here at the house, he likes to have the lawn all nice and neatly manicured and everything, which I totally appreciate. Makes it very nice for us that we don't have to trample through a bunch of tall, wet grass and weeds and jump over sticks and logs and stuff. So he has it all nice and neat. So a few years ago, it's been a few years ago, we were getting ready for Samhain, and he was out there. I was in the house doing whatever, and he was outside. He was going to do some yard work, so no big deal. Behind our pasture is where the burn pile is, big area back there, and that's where he does most of his burning for yard debris and whatever. And so I'm in the house, he's outside, and I'm like, gee, that must be a huge fire or something, because I could really, really smell the smoke in the house. And like I said, the burn pile is quite a ways. It's back behind our horse pasture, so it's a ways back there. So I looked out the back window, and there wasn't even a fire out there. I didn't know what was going on. I thought, what? Maybe he started the fire, and maybe the whole field is on fire, or maybe the woods have caught on fire. So I came to our front door to go out onto the porch to just check the woods, because I could see the smoke blowing. It was blowing this way. And our front door has a big glass window in it. And then on the other side is our storm door, which just is one big, huge glass door. So I just kind of looked out the door first, and the smoke was just billowing. I could see all this smoke. So what in the world? So I opened the front door real quick, and I kind of looked out the glass door, and I see him. And I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. So I went ahead and I opened the door. Pardon me for laughing. I'm going to laugh. I go out on the porch, and here he is with his rake. He's shoveling yard debris, leaves, stuff like that, branches, etc., into my cauldron and burning them. Now, it doesn't seem like any big deal. I mean, right? And so I'm on the porch, and I got my hands on my hips, and I'm just staring at him. And he finally looks over at me like what? And then he realizes what he's doing, because, as you know, the cauldron is sacred to me, which, by the way, I don't know what happened to my channel. It's supposed to be the hallowed cauldron. I think it switched back to Dakota. I did something, don't know what. Sorry, I will try to get it switched back. But I'm very, very attached to cauldrons. So my big cauldron that's under our oak tree, that is our magical cauldron. That is the cauldron that we use for all of our rituals and magical intentions and all kinds of things. And he's throwing the yard debris in there and he's burning it. So he looks over at me. I got my hands on my hips like this, just looking at him. And he looks back over at the cauldron and he drops the rake and he puts his hands up in the air and he looks up to the sky and he starts jumping around and like, la 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 la, like he's chanting, dancing around the fire. Now, I don't know how to edit. I can't get I don't know how to get this picture in, so this is just on my phone, but I'm going to show you what he was doing, if you can see that. It cracks me up every time I see it. Yes, so, you know, it's pure and innocent. I mean, it was just pure and innocent. Did he destroy the magic in the cauldron? I don't think so. It was so pure and so innocent. But, yeah, he's like, that's what cauldrons are for. They're for burning stuff. And I said, that's what your pile in the back is for. Oh, anyway, he's a mess. But we think he's... But I have proof. This picture is proof. We think that he is a closet pagan, because how does he know to put his hands up and look to the sky and start dancing around the cauldron? Makes you go, All right, guys. I hope you can work it out if you've got that situation. And I'll be thinking about you. I'll send some wishes out there. Send you some good energy if you're struggling. And until next week, have a great one. Bye.